Clown Country 2 from Laugh, Clown, Laugh in Recognizing Blues by Herman Charles Bosman. A pretty girl, we said, if she was wild enough, was a lot more dangerous than any kind of lion. And no matter how fiercely the lion might roar either, we said. Because all a pretty girl needed to do was to lower her eyelashes in a particular way, we said. And for that, she did not have to be an equestrian or anything else, we added. It was only natural after that the talk should turn to the subject of pretty girls in general. And it was still more natural that, before we knew where we were, we should be discussing Pauline Gerber. What made it somewhat difficult for us to talk as freely as we would have liked about what we had been hearing of Pauline Gerber lately was the fact that Johnny Koen was there, sitting in Yuri Stein's voorkamer. And we knew full well how Johnny Koen had felt about Pauline Gerber, both before she went to the finishing school in the Cape and after she came back from finishing school. As it happened, however, Johnny Koen helped us out to some extent, and perhaps without knowing it even. Gijsbert van Tonder had just made the admission that, insofar as he was able to judge, Pauline Gerber was not only just the prettiest girl in this part of the Marico Bushveld, but also the most attractive. If you know what I mean by attractive, Gijsbert van Tonder added. Otherwise, I could tell you. That was when Johnny Koen interrupted Gijsbert van Tonder. No, you don't need to tell us, Johnny Koen said hastily. Not in words and all that. And not when it's Pauline Gerber, I should say. You've told us things like that before today. About what you find attractive in girls, that is. And so if you perhaps don't say it all over again, we won't feel that we've missed anything. Because you've said it all before, that is. After a few moments' reflection, Gijsbert van Tonder conceded Johnny Koen's point. He had spoken on that subject quite a good bit, he acknowledged. But there was still just this one thing he wanted to say. Not now, please, Johnny Koen interjected. And he spoke so sharply and with such unwanted heat that Gijsbert van Tonder shut up, looking puzzled all the same. I was only going to say, Gijsbert van Tonder concluded in an aggrieved tone, and left it at that. For if Johnny Koen was going to act funny and so on, well, it was not a matter for him, Gijsbert van Tonder, to have to go out of his way to help Johnny right. Well, I've only seen Pauline Gerber a few times since she's been back from the finishing school, Johnny Koen said. And from the way he said few, we knew that he wanted us to think that it meant more than, say, exactly twice. But of course, we weren't really interested in the number of times that Johnny Kun had seen Pauline Gerber of late. What we were anxious to learn was how often the young schoolmaster, Vermaak, had been seeing her. For it was in relation to young Vermaak, and not Johnny Kun, that a certain amount of talk was going on about Pauline Gerber.
Well, the few times I've seen her,
Johnny Kun went on,
it was a bit difficult for me to know what to think exactly. The first time I saw her, the schoolmaster had just left. And the second time, I mean on another occasion, when I saw her at her house, she was sort of expecting Meneer Vermaak to come around. But what I want to say is that what Chris Velman said about the circus girl, why, that's exactly how I feel about Pauline Gerber. And how pretty she is and all that. And what makes it still more queer is that she talks about herself just like Chris Velman talks about the girl that rides in the circus. She feels she's shut up in a cage, Pauline Gerber says. To have to live here in the bushveld with everyone so narrow-minded, Pauline Gerber says, is like being shut up in a cage.
Johnny Kun went on at considerable length after that, acquainting us with the true nature of the sentiments he entertained for Pauline Gerber. But we were not interested. We did not in any way doubt the purity or sincerity of his feelings. Only we were not concerned with all that. What we really wanted to know was what was going on between Pauline Gerber and the young schoolmaster. And it was apparent that Johnny Kun couldn't tell us more that we already knew. It was a pity that Johnny Kun should be struck with such blindness, we thought. It would be better if the scales were to drop from Johnny Kun's eyes, we felt. It was Oupa Becker who brought the talk back to a discussion of the circus, which was, after all, where we had started from. "Working on bottles," Oupa Becker was saying. "Well, that's a new one for me. And I've known the Mariku when it was elephant country. Unless maybe it was giraffe country. And what a giraffe would look like, standing on his hind legs, I just can't think of right away." That was what gave Johnny Kun his chance to get back to the clowns once more.
The one clown poured water from the stepladder out of a bucket on that other clown that I was telling you about,
Johnny Kun said.
And I just about laughed my head off each time to see how the other clown got soaked. And they had people come running in from the back entrance with more buckets of water. And it all went over that clown. I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed the Chinese acrobat even, who jumped through 2 wheels with knives in them. And all the time that clown didn't know what was happening. Every time I saw someone come running in with another bucket of water, why, I just about died laughing.
We gazed at Johnny Kun pretty steadily as he spoke, and we thought of what was going on between Pauline Gerber and young Vermaak, the schoolmaster. And all the time, Johnny Koen went on feeling the way he did about Pauline. And we wondered if Gysbert van Tonder had been so far wrong when he said that this was clown country. The tears started coming into Johnny Koen's eyes eventually, the way he was laughing about that clown.